Let's get started, Rabotai. We got a new Masechet. We've got just everyone, just so you guys see, the guys that couldn't make it, tonight. You just want to see. This is how we're starting. You know those videos that they do. This is how it started. This is how it's going. And I think we've got another maybe 10 people on Zoom. So hopefully, Bezat Hashem, we'll be zocheh to have a fantastic crew all the way through and finish this Masechet. Now, the other thing that I've done, which Bezat Hashem I hopefully will post for the guys, is that I have spent a lot of time working with AI to be able to produce a review document for the whole of Masechet Makot.
No way. Yeah,
Yes.
on Zoom, AI assistant, right?
So I must show you what I've actually produced. So I'm going to send it around. It's a nice read. You read right through the whole Masechet. So hopefully, Bezat Hashem, you guys will have like a review on what we've done. Okay? So let's...
How'd you do it?
I went back and forth 25 times with it. You have to keep, refining and asking it. Not like this. I want it like this.
Worked with the algorithm.
Yeah, I'm a techie. Yeah. Okay. So hopefully you guys will see it, and hopefully it'll be a useful review. Okay. So for those of you who do not have the Gemara, this is one of the instances where it's important to actually take a look. You can do this later on your own time. We're going to do a very quick top-down review on the opening of the Masechet. And the reason why I'm saying that is because when we start this Masechet, it's important to know from what basis we're starting this idea. So let's start with what the Masechet is about. It's called Moed Kattan, which means small holiday. Oftentimes the word Moed, right, is used not as a holiday, but actually it's the descriptive term that we use for Chol HaMoed. Okay? So what do we say on Chol HaMoed to each other? Moadim l'simcha. If you're Ashkenaz, what do you say? K'moed, right? That's what you say. You ask Modi, he'll tell you, right? K'moed, that's what you say. So Moed is the time that we're referring to. Even though the whole thing is considered a Moed, Moed means a meeting time, a meeting place where people are coming together. It was a time when the Jewish people were coming together with God. But the euphemism of Moed, when it's not used as Yom Tov, okay? So Moed usually refers to the period between the two holidays. So on Pesach, on Shavuot, you have a bunch of days in between, right? It depends on if you're in Israel. On Pesach and Sukkot, excuse me. You have a bunch of days in between. Depending on if you're here or in Israel, you'll have 2 days on either side if you're here, 1 day on either side if you're in Israel. But the interim days, the intermediate days, those days are called Chol HaMoed. Now, those days are not holidays. So why do we have to have a Masechet? I could have read that one page. Could you do Melacha and Chol HaMoed? Go for it, right? That would have been easy, right? Super simple. Except that we have one problem. So what we're going to do here is a little bit unorthodox, right? We're going to start the Masechet not with the Mishnah, but with Rashi, okay? Now, it's important to understand the Rashi you're going to see over here on the side of the Gemara. There's a big hullabaloo as to who this Rashi actually is. What does that mean? What am I even saying? You see on the little right-hand side, there's another one. It says Rashi Ktav Yad. You see that? Okay? Normally, in these Gemaras, it doesn't say that. It says Likute Rashi. Normally, that's a amalgam of Rashi from all over the Shas on exactly those words from other Gemaras. So if you want to know like some spice from Rashi and Baba Metzia, your favorite Masechet, right? So we pull it in and we say, look, this is what Rashi said on this somewhere else. So it gives you extra color. In this Masechet, Likute Rashi is in the back. Why? How come? What's going on? The answer is, this Rashi does not actually match, okay? It doesn't match the Rashi in the Rif. It doesn't match the Rashi in other places either, okay? So, other people quoting Rashi. So therefore, when you look at this Rashi, it's suspect. Well, like the kids would say, sus. So what's the problem? This Rashi doesn't match up, so maybe this is someone else. It turns out it's another one of the Rishonim, we think, but we still have the Rashi over here. The regular Rashi, which would be the Rashi you'd see on the side, the little commentary on the side, Rashi Ktav Yad, which means written by hand, and the Likutei Rashi is going to be in the back. Okay? With that introduction, we're going to read whoever this is. He's going to give us an intro that we need in order to do this. Check it out. Rashi says as follows. First narrow line in Rashi on page Bet Amud Aleph. Dichtiv, because it says, Masechet Chagiga, it says as follows, which talks about Yom Tov, and going up to the Beit HaMikdash on Yom Tov. Dichtiv, it says, Sheshet Yamim Tochal Matzot. 6 days you eat matzot. Ubayom HaShvi'i Atzeret LaHashem. And on the 7th day, Atzeret means to stop. If you're ever in Israel, you see the big red octagon sign. What does it say on it? Atzor. Atzor means stop. Okay? So, Yom HaShvi'i, on the 7th day of Pesach, Atzeret LaHashem Elokecha. It's a day where you have to stop. What do you have to stop from? From work. Says the Gemara in Chagiga, Ma Shvi'i Atzor. Just like on the 7th day, Atzor, you have to stop. Ba'asiyat melacha, doing work. Av Shisha, Atzurim ba'asiyat melacha. So too, the other 6 days, including the first day of the holiday, but also including the 5 intermediate days, the days of Chol HaMoed, you can't do melacha. Says the Gemara over there, Ima Shvi'i Atzor b'chol melacha. So if that's true, then you should have to stop on all melacha on the other days. Right? The 7th day, you're not allowed to do any melacha. It's Yom Tov, right? But the other days, the Chol HaMoed days, you're allowed to do some melacha. Av Shisha Atzurim b'chol melacha. Maybe you'd think that the other 6 days also are as strict as the last day of the holiday, which is Atzeret, which you can't do melacha. Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, Ubayom HaShvi'i, and on the 7th day, indicating that this day of Atzeret is only HaShvi'i. So we, on the one hand, we have Ubayom HaShvi'i telling us that 6 days and the 7th day are connected. On the other hand, it's telling us that only the 7th day is a full stoppage. What's the answer? There's some stoppage of melacha for the other days, but not as full as the last day. So what does the Gemara end? It's coming to tell you, Shivi Atzur b'chol melacha. 7th day, you got to stop all work. And Shisha Atzurim b'chol melacha. But the other 6 days are not forbidden from all work. Halo misaran hakatub ela lechachamim. The Torah only gave the quantification of work. To whom? To the chachamim, to the rabbis. Lomar lecha, to tell you. Eze melacha asura b'chol shel hamoed. Which melacha is forbidden on the Chol HaMoed? Ve'ezu muteret, and which is allowed. Umelacha sheyesh ba hefsed. So melacha, and here's the first indication that we're going to have about what the Masechet is really about. A melacha sheyesh ba hefsed, that has a monetary loss, a financial loss attached to it. Imena oseot, if he doesn't do it. Kegon lehashkot beta shelachim hetiru chachamim. Like watering a field that doesn't have enough water, the chachamim allowed. So let's review. When it comes, yeah. So the Gemara says, well, is it a day that are these days that you can't work or days that you can? Because it's connecting it to the 7th day, which is forbidden in work. The Gemara says it connected it, but it didn't say that the same way the 7th day is not allowed any work, these days are not allowed any work. It must be like a quasi-work day, these Chol HaMoed days. How do you define what it is and what it isn't? Says the Gemara, the Chachamim were given the power to make the decision over what was allowed and what was not allowed. And what does Rashi give us as an example? As an example, the most famous idea with Chol HaMoed, when it comes to working on Chol HaMoed, is that when it comes to davar sheyesh ba hefsed, something which has a monetary or financial loss if you don't do it, the Chachamim allowed you to do that.
So you can do maintenance, but you can't do
Don't try to define it yet. Yeah.
This is the 7th day, isn't it? The real, isn't it a holiday?
So the 7th day is a real holiday.
Yeah.
So that's what it's saying.
And the
The
first day is a
7th
real
day
holiday.
is Atzeret. The first day also Atzeret. But those days in the middle that I just said are compared to the 7th day, are they completely compared to the 7th day? No. They have some prohibitions of work and some leniencies. The Chachamim were given the power to decide and to dictate what was allowable work and what was not allowable work. Now that we have that derasha, okay, we have in front of us something that we need to understand, okay? And I want you to review this again later on. I'm pulling all of what I'm saying here from, everything is going to be here, but you need the top-down understanding in order to start the Masechet, okay? So here's the top-down understanding. Every time the Torah says you're not allowed to do work, can the rabbis come and tell you you could do this kind of work? Listen, if you're going to lose some money, you can't do that. Right? That never works. Do we ever say on Shabbat, listen, you're not allowed to work on Shabbat, but if you have financial loss, go for it? No. Never. So how come all of a sudden over here we're making this exception? Is it a biblical law or not? So there's a big machloket whether the idea of not working on Chol HaMoed is from the Torah or from the Chachamim. What do you mean? Didn't I just bring you a pasuk from the Gemara? So the Chachamim argue. One opinion says that when the Gemara brought that, it was meaning to say it like a isur, a prohibition from the Torah. And other people say, no, we were just showing you the idea, we're basing it on the Torah, but the Torah doesn't actually expressly forbid it. So the opinion that says it's not from the Torah, rabbis could decide, it's rabbinic. The other opinion that says it is from the Torah, how do the rabbis mess with it? The answer is that the Torah expressly included within it not a loophole, but rather that it was being given to the Chachamim. Okay? So the Torah told you it was given to the Chachamim to decide what is in and what is out. Okay? So let's try and take a bird's eye view over what the Masechet is going to cover in looking at these things that make a melacha allowed versus not allowed. Yes?
Is this specific discretion given to the Rabbanim, or is it the broad, where is the broad reference to the rabbinic interpretation?
The broad reference to rabbinic interpretation is a pasuk that says explicitly, whatever the Chachamim tell you, whatever they tell you, lo tasur yemin usmol, mikol asher yorucha. You can't turn right from the Torah. In Devarim. You can't turn right and you can't turn left from what they shall tell you. Okay? Not only that, Rambam asks a famous question. Every time we do a mitzvah, midrabanan, we light Chanukah candles. Is Chanukah candles in the Torah? No, happened after the Torah. But yet, when we light the candles, we say, Baruch atah Amonai, blessed are you Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, King of the world. Asher kiddeshanu, b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu. You sanctified us with your mitzvot, v'tzivanu, and you commanded us to light Chanukah candles. What kind of lie is that? He didn't command us to light Chanukah candles. Answers Rambam, yes he did. Because the Torah commands you to follow the words of the Chachamim.
Yeah, but Rambam here is telling us to turn left, turn right, go up and go down like we're shaking the lulav.
I don't understand what you
The
mean.
next page, there's 4 different Rambams arguing with each other.
Okay.
So, which one are we supposed to choose?
I don't know what you mean when you say
Look at the
4
next
different
page.
Rambams.
The
Yeah.
whole discussion that you referred to before.
Yes.
This Rashi says go left, that Rashi says go right on the same topic.
No, that we don't have. That, again, remember, what you're referring to is commentators. What here referring to is the Mishnah. Rashi here, Rambam, is much later.
Okay.
What we're talking about, the Chachamim Kol Asher Yerucha, is the Sanhedrin, is the Mishnayot, the Torah Sheba'al Peh. Okay? Now, so let's take a look at what kind of work was right off the bat was excluded from the mission. But in order to understand that, we need to know what's included. At first crack, when you look at Chol HaMoed, your first reaction should be, everything's forbidden. Don't worry. We're going to walk that back like we're walking. You know what they say, hit the road, Jack, and all of that? We're going to hit the road, Jack, and all of that. Today, we have Chol HaMoed trips. The whole family gets in the car. What are you doing? You turned on the car, you drove the thing, you rode that. You know, practically the only thing we're not doing in Chol HaMoed is writing. And even that some people are doing, okay? So it's very little that's left. How we're going to understand and reconcile. There we go. Unless you're agreeing like a lizard, okay? So, sorry, but that's not a melacha.
No, I'm just saying it's a secondary.
It's a different item. Yeah. Why is a very good question. We'll cover that actually, okay? So here we're looking at melacha. Our starting principle is, you know the way I look at it? In American law, we say a person is innocent until proven guilty. What that means is the starting premise is innocence. You need to prove guilt. The same thing is true in the reverse for Chol HaMoed. Everything is asur. Why? Because the Torah says it's forbidden. But then it tells you that the Chachamim are allowed to allow you to do something. So what did the Chachamim allow? Number one, they allowed something which was davar ha'aved. something which is going to be a loss. Now this, I know every SY guy is thinking, well, if I don't go to work, I'm going to lose the money that I was going to make. That's not what losing. Losing is something you already have.
Principle.
You're going to lose principal that you already own.
Don't profit.
Not that I'm going to have profit.
Maintain that
Exactly.
profit.
Okay?
Make a sale to a new customer.
Correct. Well, no. You said something else now.
Now maintain.
You said made a sale. Is making a sale in melacha?
No, not necessarily.
You see? So we're
You
going to...
maintain the sales.
No. Forget the sales for a second. First, we're talking about melacha. What's a melacha? Melacha is an act of creative work. One of the 39 creative work things that you're not allowed to do on Shabbat or Yom Tov. Okay? So, but not work in terms of, I'll sell you this, okay, I'll buy it. That's not work. Work is writing the contract. Work is dyeing the leather. Work is digging the hole. Work is watering the plant. Work is anything which is considered to be a melacha. All right? Now,
How do we make from 6 days you should eat matzah and the 7th day you should stop to saying all of the days you can't work and not eat matzah?
from the Vav. Because it says 6 days eat matzah, and then it says, and on the 7th day, atzeret. What do you mean, and on the 7th day, atzeret? The first bit is talking about matzot. The second bit is talking about work. So it must be that the Torah is combining the two. Because it says 6 days eat matzah, and on the 7th day, don't work. Well, the answer is, it's combining 6 days and 7th day for not working, but to what degree is debatable. So again, I want to give you the high-level principles, just so we can start with the Mishnah. One more time, let's go. The first thing is, davar aved. You're not allowed to have something, you're allowed to do work if you're preventing yourself from a material loss of something you already had. The second thing is ochel nefesh. When you're cooking for something where you needed to eat that food. Okay, by the way, included in ochel nefesh, the Chachamim also added smoking cigarettes. Did you know that? So it's not specifically food. It's in order to be able to live. You know what else is included in ochel nefesh? To a degree, we're going to get there. Okay, showering, taking a bath. Okay, so there's milachot that you have to do in order for a person to be able to live their life in a normal way. Okay, so eating, drinking, bathing, smoking a cigarette back in the day. Right now, we all know better. But at the time, so that was all allowed on Yom Tov. So why am I telling you that you're allowed to do this on Chol Moed? Of course you're allowed to do it on Chol Moed. You're allowed to do it on Yom Tov. You could put a pot on the fire. The answer is no. We allowed you to do melachot for food that were also asur on Shabbat. So as an example, let's say I want to cook food on Yom Tov, but I don't have an existing flame. I can't cook. Here, on Chol HaMoed, I could light the fire from the beginning and do it. Let's say I want to have a cookie. I don't have anything. I could go to the field, I could cut the thing, I could do all the work that you need. Take the grain, crush the grain, I could do all the preliminary work. That's not the last stage of work. The last stage of work is allowed on Yom Tov. For Chol HaMoed, you're able to do even right from the beginning, even the preliminary acts of work. Let me take it one step further. Let's say you don't have an oven. Let's say you don't have a pot. No problem. Go make a pot. That's a regular melacha. Still, if it was for food on Chol HaMoed, we allowed you to do that, okay? So we're seeing now another category of thing that you're allowed to do on Chol HaMoed. Another thing is, if a person has no food to eat. So a person is a worker, they have no food to eat, they're allowed to do regular work, not for food, or not food work, regular work, because they need to eat akil. So that's also part of, on some level, of ochel nefesh. Another answer is tzarchei moed, when you need something for the holiday. Again, not food related, but you need something for the holiday. Anything you need for the holiday, you'd be allowed to do any kind of melacha on Chol HaMoed. And the last one is tzarchei rabim. We're going to get to that in the end of this Mishnah. Tzarchei rabim means, do the public need this? If the public needs something, it doesn't matter if they need it on the holiday or not need it on the holiday. Even if they just need something. The shul is breaking down. I can fix the shul on Chol HaMoed, even though it's melacha. Why? These 5 things that we just mentioned are leniencies when it comes to the work that we're going to allow you to do on Chol HaMoed.
It's like a Hazan getting paid on Shabbat.
that is way too complicated a comparison to be able to deal with it is. No, because there's so much that goes into that. Okay? Now, please don't get into the Chazan. Okay? Also, Shmuel might be around. I don't know. Okay, bye. One last piece. All of this is melacha. All of this is work. All of this that we described was when you're doing something that you're not allowed to do on a day that you're not allowed to do work. But there's one other thing that we did not allow you to do on Chol HaMoed, also pertinent for the Mishnah. That's why we have to go to such level of an intro, because if not, the Mishnah makes no sense. The second thing we did not allow you to do is something which has tircha yitera, which means an excess amount. It's a lot of work. Like as an example, on Shabbat, I can't flick a light switch, because even though that's work, you turned on, you made a light bulb go on, that's work, quote unquote, in the eyes of the Torah. But if I want, I could schlep heavy things from the ground floor of my townhouse to the 6th floor and then bring them back down. I could sweat like a beast up and down 50,000 times. It's not melacha, it's not work. I'm allowed to do that on Shabbat. Let's be clear. On Chol HaMoed,
But don't you have to plan it?
sorry?
It says about on Shabbat, if you wanted to do work like that in the house.
Not work. I'm just talking about,
Not work.
I want to move stuff.
No. Okay.
Very heavy, very sweaty. That I would call more work than flipping a light switch, right? Yet, when it comes to Chol HaMoed, besides for the melacha piece, you also have this other piece called tircha yitera, which is an excess amount of work. Something which is going to bring you to work too hard on the holiday. We don't want you to do that. Even if it's not a melacha. We want you enjoying the holiday. We don't want you getting busy with all sorts of heavy work, something which is going to take up too much of your effort. Okay?
You could do it.
Sorry?
In theory, on Shabbat, you could do this very high, strenuous effort, but on Chol HaMoed, you cannot.
You cannot do it. So on that level, it's stricter even than Shabbat. Something which is a lot of effort, but isn't the melacha, you would be allowed to do on Shabbat. You can't do it now. Okay.
On Chol HaMoed, you can't do this.
Chol HaMoed is when you can't do this. On Chol HaMoed, we are not allowing you to do something which has tircha yitera.
Which you're
Okay?
allowed to do on Shabbat.
Yes.
Why are you allowed to do it on Shabbat?
Because on Shabbat, we only forbade melacha. We did not forbid tircha yitera, extra effort. On Chol HaMoed, there's an added issue of something which takes a lot of effort. Okay? Are we good so far? One last piece before we start the Mishnah is that the Mishnah is going to talk about two things side by side because they're similar, but they're a little different. What are the two things? One is Chol HaMoed, okay? And one is Shemitah. Since we're talking a lot about fields, okay? Shemitah, on the 7th year of the cycle, in the year cycle, we're supposed to leave the field fallow. You're not supposed to do work in the field, okay? Is there any issue of excess effort on Shemitah? No. No, but there's, even if I was to do something that had a lot of effort, Shemitah is no isur of extra effort. What would the isur be on Shemitah? Something to do with planting or helping a field. So if we're now going to talk about stuff that involves a field, sometimes what the Torah will do, what the Mishnah is going to do, is going to loop together the laws of Chol HaMoed and Shemitah. But don't be confused, because they're not always, even though there's some similarities, they're not always identical. Okay? In what way are they not identical? They're not identical because the origin source of the problem is coming from another place. Okay. Having said all of that, we can now begin. Mashkin bet hashelachim. Mashkin comes from the word mashke, okay? Which means to drink. Mashkin means you can give bet hashelachim to drink. You can give a field which otherwise does not get enough rainwater. What makes this field a bet hashelachim? The fact that even if it gets rain, the rain runs off the side. It's like on a mountainside, on a thing. But there could be a lot of reasons why a field would need irrigation. For whatever reason, a field needs irrigation. You know that if it don't get irrigated, what's going to happen? The field's going to die. Okay? So you have a field that's an irrigated field. If you're not going to irrigate it, it's going to die. You're allowed to water that field b'moed. As we said, moed does not mean the holiday. It means chol hamoed.
How do they water? They take from a well and water?
We'll get there. Uba shabi'it. You're allowed to do this on the holiday and on Shemitah. Why would I have thought that I can't do it on Shemitah? On Shemitah, you're not allowed to do things in the field. But are you allowed to water a field? Yeah, you're allowed to water a field. Okay? Argument exactly what the comparison is by Shibi'it over here. I don't want to get into it. It's not our sugya. Okay? So, you're allowed to water a field that's an irrigated field on Chol Moed and on Shemitah. Ben mema'ayan she'atza b'techila, whether you're using to irrigate the field a spring that is a new spring, she'atza b'techila, that just started pouring, gushing forth its waters, ben mema'ayan shelo yatza b'techila, whether it's a spring that has not always been around. It's Johnny come lately. Okay? Now, I want to be careful. Why would you have thought that it makes a difference what kind of spring you're going to use to irrigate the field?
This is work.
Sorry?
The work to create the spring.
No, the spring's there. The only question is, could I use a new spring or a spring that's only an old spring? But in either scenario, the spring is already running. Okay?
Talking about on the Chol Hamoed.
On Chol Hamoed.
Do new springs more like watery? I don't know.
Oh, here we go. Okay. So, why would you be allowed to do this? Because it requires almost no work. You have a spring, it's pushing water. What do? I take my foot, I take my hand, I go like this, make a line in the sand. It's pushing water. What's going to happen? It's going to find that groove. It's going to water my whole field. So with almost no work, I could do that irrigation. Okay? So what's my problem? There's no tircha yitera, and the field, if I don't water it, it's going to die. So I have both conditions. Davar aved, right? A losing item, and also no hard work. The Mishnah says, 1 second, but if it's a new spring, it's not already been pushing for a long time, maybe the spring is not yet set. And what's going to happen if you use that spring, which is brand new, to water your field? Since the walls of the spring are not yet set, maybe it's not stable, what happens if the wall of the spring will collapse in? You have to fix it. If it's a Ma'ayana spring that's gushing for 100 years, I know that there's no work here whatsoever. But if it's a new spring, I don't know, maybe just now it's pushing through the water, because that's how it works. The water will have so much pressure, it will shove through a hole. But if there's not enough pressure, or if the walls are actually not solidified against each along the side, while the water's pushing through with max pressure, it'll get through. If it loosens a little, if it lowers the pressure a little, all of a sudden it collapses in on itself. So then I'm going to have to do all this work. Says the Gemara, I'm not worried about maybes. Right now you got a spring, fada. Water your field that needs to be watered. Because it's a davar aved, it's an item which you're going to lose, it's going to die if you don't water it. And also, it's not requiring a lot of work from you right now. I don't care that it might be a lot of work, but right now it's good. Okay?
Wouldn't that work be allowed anyway because it'd be part of the Hesed?
Sorry?
Wouldn't that work if the well
No.
fell?
No.
Part of the
If you had davar hefsed, but was tircha yitera, it would still be a problem. Okay? Aval en mashkin. But says the Gemara, you cannot water this field that needs the watering. Lo mimei geshamim v'lo mimei kilon. Not from rainwater and not from well water. Okay? Why could you not? What did you think the reason is?
Because you're making a catch. You're making something to catch the rainwater.
No, it's got a pail in it. Because to draw the water out of the well, the pain in the apple. You're sitting there like this, and then back, and then a thing, right? We made Rivka the mother of all the Jewish people because she fed a few guys. You know how long it takes to feed a field? Tircha yitera. Obvious. That's why you asked me straight away, how you watering it? I told you got to wait. What's the other item? What about mimei gishamim, from rainwater? Obviously, you're not watering it from rainwater that's falling. We mean a ditch that's filled with rainwater. Okay? Why is that? What's the difference between the rainwater and the water coming out of the well? Well water is very deep. Rainwater that's gathered together is very shallow. So you might think, I'm allowed to use the rainwater. Says the Mishnah, you're not allowed to use the rainwater. Why? Why not? It's not, there's no tircha. It's going to be, my field, davar aved, condition number 1. I don't have the problem, right? The Gemara says if we turn a few pages, you get to 4a, you'll see the Gemara is going to tell us the reason. two opinions why you can't use rainwater. One opinion is because in the beginning, when you're taking off the top, it's no work. But you're going to keep digging. What's going to happen? Eventually, it's going to be deep, and then it's going to be work. So in the beginning of feeding your field, you're kosher. By the time you get to the middle of the field, you already practically are using it as a well. So we don't want you to start something that's going to wind up being, in the immediate future, something which is the action of Tirchai Terah. Answer number one. Answer number two is, we're worried if we told you could use rainwater, you'd think, oh, I'm allowed to use rainwater? People will get confused, and they'll use well water, which is also from rain. So therefore, because of the Gezerah, we didn't let you do it. Okay? Two opinions. We're going to get to it later on. We'll see the difference in the two opinions. But either way, the Gemara says, so therefore, what do we know? You could water your field with a spring because the spring is pushing the water, but not water that's standing water, rain, or from a well.
New spring.
Sorry? New spring's also kosher.
I think said no.
No. The Mishnah says, you could and you could. I asked you, why would you even think you can't? The answer is the Hidush of the new spring is you might have thought that, but no, you're kosher because it's not extra water. Okay? So new spring, old spring, you're good. Even Poland spring. You might have thought.
But no, it's good.
Yes, yeah, he says one of the might haves. Okay? You got me? What do we call that in Gemara language? You guys remember? You guys remember what do we call that in Gemara language?
What's that?
You might have thought.
Oh,
Nope.
no.
There you go. Did you guys hear what he said? Yeah. Anytime you're wondering what the word is, all you got to do is hum to yourself. Na 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 na. And when you think of Hava Nagila, you'll think of Hava Amina. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Okay, so we all kosher so far? Yeah? In the watering. Okay. Says the Mishnah. Ve'en osin ugiyot lagifanim. And we won't dig out trenches around the gifanim, around the vines. What's the first reason jumps the head? Why can't you dig big hole? There you go. Hard work. Too hard. So why you dig it? Why is it bringing this here? Because what people used to do is they would dig a little trench, a little moat around their vines, and the water would gather there. So I might think, 1 second, this is the same thing as leading the spring. I'm just kind of, digging out the area around it. Simple understanding is yes, but that's too much work. The other one, you just drag your foot. You already have a indentation in the earth. It's already enough. But this is already too much. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says, En osin et ha'ama b'techila. You cannot make a new ama. What is ama? Ama literally means?
Canal.
That's the measurement of it.
The canal.
What does ama literally mean? This is an ama. From here to here. This machloket, how big ama is. Okay? Ama is counted as either 1.5 feet or 2 feet. So as an example, when we talk about the sukkah, we're like, you have to have 4 amot. What do we mean when we say ama, amot? Ama is machloket either 1.5 feet or 2 feet. Okay? So that measurement, okay, basically fist till your elbow, ama, was the size that they would make when they were making a canal. It would be 1 arm's width wide and 1 arm's width deep. So they called it ama. Okay? Now, says Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, you cannot make a new ama, a new canal, b'moed, on the Chol HaMoed. Uba Shavit, and on Shemitah. Why? Why would you think not? Why can't you do it on the Moed? And this is, I want this, you guys, this has got to flow easy. I'm sorry for the flow reference, it was a bad joke. But it's gotta come easy. Now, you can't do it, too much work, obviously. Bashemi'it, wait, and on Shemitah? Shemitah, what's the problem with Shemitah? You're allowed to water on Shemitah.
You can't work the land, right?
We can't work the land, but I didn't work the land.
Gonna eventually leak.
All I did was, I made a canal. I didn't plant a tree. I didn't. So the Gemara is already going to talk about the reasoning of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. There'll be a few different reasons. I'll give you a little sneak preview. One of the opinions is that it looks like when you're doing all the digging, it looks like you're hoeing. it looks like you're taking,
Showing
you're doing the work exactly.
Marid ayin.
Sort of. Okay, we'll get there, but I just wanted to give you a little heads up.
So
hire a
just to
guard,
back
yeah,
up, you're saying that if you created somehow an automated system, it's considered no good?
Here we go. All right. You're asking a great question. Let's say I do tircha yitera work, but I'm good friends with Elon Musk, and he lent me one of his new robots. Okay? Boom. Excellent. So now I don't have to do no work. So am I allowed to do everything?
I would say probably yes, because it's like what an elevator is.
No,
If I
it's
could
about-
eliminate tircha yitera, let's say I could do an object, a thing which is very tircha, but I could do it with no tircha.
We spoke about where you said you can't give the guy your car. It's like giving the person your car. It's your work, but they know it was your car, so you wouldn't be allowed to do the work then.
No, but there's no isur on the robot doing work. Would I be allowed to do that? Let me ask you better. I've got a worker. Let him dig the ama.
You're benefiting from it.
So when the isur is melacha, fine. But when the isur is tircha, can I get around that then?
Maybe.
See where I'm going? So we're gonna have to discuss these ideas. There's Rabbi. Yeah, just don't call me. Yeah.
You get a different guy. So we do.
You know what they call that? Hookah. You know what hookah is? Hang up, call again. Okay. Says the Mishnah. But you can't. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says you can't dig this ta'ama on Chol HaMoed. Obviously, a lot of tircha, and also you can't do it on Shemitah. Maybe because it looks like you're doing the planting, which you're not allowed to do. We'll see when we get there. Chachamim say no. Osin et ta'ama b'tichila b'shemi'it on Shemitah, 100% allowed. Don't give me this. It looks like you're hoeing. No, sorry, I don't buy it. You're not hoeing. Why do Chachamim say you're not hoeing? Because whenever you do, when you're hoeing, what are you doing with the earth?
Shoveling it up like you're mixing it.
You're actually leaving it in the same place.
Oh, okay.
Here,
Not digging.
by definition, you're digging it and putting it out. Otherwise, you did nothing.
Different.
Okay, it's different. Chachamim say, no, I don't buy it. You could build yourself a brand new canal on Shemitah, no problem. But not on the holiday. Why? A lot of work. Everybody could understand that. Umitakenin et hamikul kalot b'moed. What happens if I had a canal, and all of a sudden, a little bit of the mud got into the water, and now it's got a blockage? Can I fix it?
Yeah.
You can fix it. What about, I told you earlier, that what about my Hava Nagila? Remember I said by the Hava Nagila, maybe we would think that you're fixing the walls, and we said, no, it's not here yet. But the indication is that if it was here, you wouldn't be able to do it. How come? The answer is, there's two different things. One is where some dirt fell into the water. That's a small amount of effort to be able to clear the thing. But when you're talking about fixing the whole wall, putting in reinforcements, pouring concrete, mabaref, to be able to fix a wall, that's something else that we didn't let you to do. Okay? So the Chachamim say that you're able to fix any impediment in this canal on the holiday. Now says the Gemara, we move on to the second thing we talked about in our intro. Umitaknin et kilkulei hamayim shebishut harabim. On, what does it mean? Kilkulei hamayim shebishut harabim. What does that mean? Let's say you have a well in the public domain. Okay, so people, they need to drink. And one of the wells has a problem, in the public. You're allowed to fix that well on Chol HaMoed. Why? Because what did we say? Remember we said if the Rabim, if the masses, if the populace has a big need, then you're allowed to fix it. So you're allowed to fix it. What happens if mud fell into the water and now the water's muddy? No problem, clean it out. You could fix the roads and the streets. Derachim is the major roads, okay? Rechovot is the small roads, the back alleys okay? So imagine the avenues versus the streets in New York City. Ve'et mikvot hamayim. If let's say there's a mikveh and there's a problem with the mikveh, okay? Like a mikveh needs a certain amount of water. Let's say it doesn't have enough water in it. I could go out and fix it and get more water. Anything you need to reinstate the tahara, the efficacy of a mikveh. During Chol HaMoed. Ve'osin kol tzorkei rabim. And you could do anything that the populace need. Now, if you just went through a whole list and then you told me and you could do anything they need, what did you just do? You just rendered everything we said redundant. Because if you're gonna, it's like telling me, it's like telling me like this: buy me this soda and this soda and this soda and this soda. Basically, one of everything. Now you didn't need to tell me. If you tell me kotzo, the Gemara is going to ask what that's coming to include. Okay? Umitzainin et kibarot. We're allowed to identify the kibarot, the tombstones. So if back in the day, they didn't have this big standing tombstone that you wrote on it, you put signs on it. What did they have? They just had a plot. The guy was in the earth. But a lot of times what would happen is, if a person is just like lying in the earth with nothing there to tell you that they're there, we have two people who have a problem with that. One person is, here we go, two Kohanim, right there. We have one Kohen. The Kohen is going to become impure. So what would they do? They would pour like cement on top of it to make like a marker to indicate there's a kever over here. Don't come over here. Who else had the problem? Not just Kohanim, not just Levi. Only one thing left. Everybody. Why?
Oh, they would become Tameh also.
Because we all have to be Tahor. Once upon a time, you got to eat korbanot. So when the Jewish people, during the holiday, they went up to Yerushalayim, they brought all the sacrifices. You could only eat a korban if you're whole, if you're pure. So they had to mark all the graves that were not yet marked, or ones that kind of fell apart. They would be able to mark them and pour the concrete on them with limestone, even on Chol HaMoed.
So it's everybody.
Yes, it's the need. It's an everybody need. Yes, the yotzin af ala kilayim. The Mishnah ends by saying, also the Bet Din would send out its emissaries to go hunting for kilayim. What's kilayim? Kilayim is a Torah does not allow you to grow grapes and wheat in the same field. When they would cross, they would become crossbreeded. That's shatnez, kilayim, similar idea. They would not be allowed to be used together. Okay? Now, listen to this.
Grapes on?
Grapes and wheat is the classic example. Yes. Okay?
It's cross-pollinating anything, no?
Yes and no. Okay? Because there are things in kilayim that are allowed. Okay? But whatever kilayim is, you weren't allowed to do it. So what did Bet Din do? The Bet Din always, when it would come time for the things would be growing, they would send out the Bet Din would send out their emissaries, the guys, and they would see if something was growing kilayim before it became a problem and ruined the field. They would yank him out of the earth.
So the whole field would be rendered, even if it wasn't just
If it keeps growing, it can make everything contaminate everything. So they would send them out and they would go find stuff that wound up becoming crossbred, right? And then they would separate it. Now you could have that even accidental. Let's say you have vines and they're growing up at the side of a field and things fell in the ground. Next thing you know, there's stuff growing together. It could make a problem. So what would they do? They would come and they would pull it out. Now the question over here is the pulling out a problem on Chol HaMoed? Is that the issue? So
No, it's not excessive.
Chachamim say no. Why? Because that's destroying. That's mekalkel. It's also not that much effort.
Right.
So what are we telling? What was the hidush over here that we're telling you that they would be able to do? The hidush was that they would even send them out on Chol HaMoed. That was the time that they began sending them out. You think to yourself, we'll see why that's a hidush a little bit later. I'll give you a little hint. Should I give you a hint? Nope. There's a law that says, nope. Anything that you could have done, anything that you're allowed to do on Chol HaMoed, but anything that you could have done before, and you pushed it off to now, we don't let you do. You know why? We want you relaxing on the holiday. So if we're gonna let you're anyway staying at home in Yerushalayim, whatever, you're gonna take all your objects and you're gonna push them on the holiday. You're not gonna have a holiday. So anything that you could have done before, we don't let you do now.
That you could have done.
We only want you doing things now that you could only do now. So what is this? They're sending out these emissaries. Could they have sent them out before or after? They could. Says the Mishnah Hidush, maybe. That we're letting you do something that you could have done before or after. And that's the Hidush of sending them out. We'll see already what the Hidush is when we get back and we start the Gemara. Rabutai, I just want to say, it's right now on the clock, 44 minutes and 34 seconds. I just want to tell forever and ever, you should know, it is possible for a rabbi to finish earlier than he said he was going to finish.